Thank you. I have the question. What kind of program you have for qualifying an auditor? It's an extensive program, it's a short program, you have a kind of guidance that you can...
Of course, we have our internal SOPs, how we describe how internally auditors are qualified. We do training programs and so on. And for the third-party auditors, we are reviewing their CVs, their experience, and for Rx-360, there are also clear SOPs, requirements, and checklists for the qualification for the selection of audit firms and qualification of auditors. So for each of the individual auditors that conduct Rx audits, we are reviewing the CV, the information provided by Rx, and this is also entered into the database, so that at every site they do not only find the audit report, but they see the complete list of information about each of the audits, which is, I think, quite important. And I know that this information has currently been updated by Rx, so there is a working group for the qualification of auditors, and this information will be enhanced in the future to have more evidence about particular items in the qualification of the audit.
Rx-360 is quite a big machine. I mean, there are probably at this moment 290 volunteers working on something. And we're quite quality-minded in terms of organization. So we have standards for the minimum qualifications of auditors. We've also defined standards, or we've adopted standards for auditing APIs. We adopted existing standard for excipients. We have standards for chemicals. We have standards for chromatography resins. And these standards are offered to the public. Anyone can use them. And as an organization, we are ready to be inspected ourselves, because what is produced by Rx-360 is important information that the QP will analyze and will take a view if, together with other information, this is good enough. We take this quite seriously.
I have a question. I was wondering how you manage your kappa process. Is that something that all the companies that went in on the joint audit have a working group on, or do you rely on your third party to manage your kappa process?
Partly. So, especially for Rx-360, we transfer all the observations from the audit into our audit database. And there are certain timelines defined for closing the observations. Then, after a while, the corrective and preventive actions proposed by the audit team are also distributed by Rx, and we are evaluating this information. This can be done centrally by our department for the audits that are globally managed, but can also be done by local sites, and they have to review the information provided by the supplier, and they have to evaluate whether there is sufficient evidence that this observation has been closed, that measures have been implemented, or in cases where we think that we need more information, that we maybe need an SOP, or at least to have the date of approval of the updated SOP, that this information is requested from the supplier. And I think that's a very important point. Kappa information is provided by Rx, but of course, each individual sponsor might contact the supplier to ask for additional information.
So, in the audit library, you will have the audit report, you'll have the observations, and you'll have the kappa that the supplier has provided. You get all this information, but you need to take a view. Rx-360 does not qualify, does not take a position on the view, on the data. It's up to the QP. Martin?
I also think by having all of this data in one database, right, we get to have statistics at the end of the day. So as a supplier, the supplier would say, you know, I had a kappa and I said X, Y, Z, and 10 of my most favorite customers told me that that kappa was either appropriate or not. So the supplier has automatic instant benchmarking data where their position is related to their customers. And on the other side, the pharma company can see, you know what, I didn't accept that kappa, but 9 of the other companies who were in this audit accepted it. Maybe my thinking was incorrect. Or maybe, you know, so there's going to be data that people can use to benchmark their internal practices.
And the other thing is, if a supplier accepts to be audited, the report goes into the library, whether it's a good report or a bad report. That's very valuable. So this is not. This is tough. But I think, you know, half of the suppliers in the industry don't want to be audited because they'll do poorly. But you have half the industry that tries hard to do well. And Rx-360 is trying to create a mechanism so that people that want to do well, that think along the lines of Rx-360, have an opportunity to be differentiated, to show themselves.
Yeah, of course. This is the risk. If there is a joint audit for 10 customers and the audit is bad,
You're in trouble. But then you deserve to be in trouble. You shouldn't be. Or you have to get your act together. We'll help people get their act together.
Maybe I just speak out loud. Andre,
I think so.
a question regarding, you presented mainly the joint audit program. To my understanding, when I read between the lines, you will not, by a healthcare company, accept shared audits from Rx-360 in your audit program?
I would say, so I was talking about the FMD, about the requirements to audit, to verify GMP and GDP compliance by audits. According to my opinion, the joint audit program is going to fulfill this.
Yeah.
For the shared audit program, there are some problems, I would say, so that the standards for the joint audit do not apply to the shared audit. The shared audits their audit reports are shared, performed by individual companies. I do not know the auditors, I do not know the audit standards, and a lot of other things. So there might be a good purpose for this shared audits. You can gather information about new suppliers, can be used for the selection of suppliers and in early stages of the evaluation of potential suppliers. But from our perspective, they are not suitable to fulfill the audit obligations of the FMD.
Yeah, I'd also want to just add what Andre said is the shared audit is a piece of information, right? How you choose to use that information is based on your own company's culture and requirements. But clearly, having some information, right, is better than having nothing, right? And when you're going to select a supplier for the first time, if you have nothing, I'd rather have somebody else's view, right? That I can say, should I even put the resources to go and do it my own audit there, right? It's a piece of information. The other one, we all have suppliers that we don't audit every year. Maybe there are some suppliers some companies that never get audited. Wouldn't a shared audit from a Pfizer or an Amgen or a GSK be better than never having any data that the company's been audited? So I'm torn between it. Yeah, it probably does not meet the requirements of FMD, but that only applies to APIs. What about packaging materials? What about salts? What about sugars, right? Labels, caps, bottles. This could fulfill a need, and definitely as a head of quality, the more information I have on the supplier, the better decisions I make.
Yeah, we keep talking about the additive effect of Rx-360 does not solve all of our challenges, right? But it is a piece of the program. And we're also, as a group, working on supplier-vendor questionnaire harmonization. So those that are on the working team, I think it's a very robust group between the suppliers, manufacturing, quality, and procurement to get that information, as Martin just described, to improve that knowledge base of your supplier without the waste or redundancy of 100 questionnaires coming to the same vendor and you resort the same information time and time again. So if we could all start to say, a little change in your organization to adapt and share and trust, that as an industry we all kind of grow together and one is not better than the other in that information collecting. So go back to your organizations and keep pushing that element that if we focus on standardization, harmonization of these sort of quality elements, maybe we then can put more energy towards the safety, security, and the criminal element. So it's where do you put your energy and don't keep doing the same thing over and over when you lose the value proposition then, right?
I think we're a bit short of time, so I think that will be all for questions. Andre, thank you so much for